When it's cold and when it's dark, the freezing moon can obsess you.
The 2018 movie Lords of Chaos tells the story of the creation of Norwegian black metal and the infamous band Mayhem. The director Jonas Åkerlund was himself involved in the black metal scene, as he was briefly a part of the Swedish band Bathory in the 80s and has since directed movies and music videos, so his insight and qualities recommend him as the director for such a film. It is based on the book by Michael Moynihan and Didrik Söderlind, Lords of Chaos, which is one of the least accurate book depictions of mayhem out there and perhaps the most hated by black metal fans. But while the book takes itself seriously but fails to be truthful and insightful, the movie doesn't take itself seriously. It is a dark comedy, consistent style-wise and very clever. There are many incongruities between facts that are now general knowledge and the depictions in this film, but I won't go into them unless absolutely necessary, because we have to remember that Lords of Chaos is not a documentary. It is fiction, and it proudly acknowledges its status as art instead of a factual depiction of reality, so we are going to analyze it as such. This is a biopic about a music band, and this film genre automatically carries the unsuspecting viewer's expectations to see an almost musical, fun, feel-good movie brimming with nostalgia for the late 80s and early 90s. But Lords of Chaos is not it. For die-hard fans of true Norwegian black metal comes the expectation of a dark epic depiction showing black metal in all its genius and glory, and Lords of Chaos is also not it. The scene of Norwegian black metal is not something to be romanticized.
That this romantic image is pure nonsense.
And Jonas Åkerlund knows it and makes this abundantly clear throughout his almost 2-hour-long film. This is dark comedy, and in this context the film is excellently consistent in terms of style and very well put together, often ridiculing rebellious posturing and overly dramatic attitudes and behaviors through the lens of maturity gained over the years that have passed since then. The film cleverly starts with the disclaimer, based on truth, lies, and what actually happened, a witty introduction to a biopic on such a controversial subject. The story is told in the perspective of Euronymous, the founder of Mayhem, in first-person narration, and this aspect is essential. His lens shapes the entire narrative, the way the characters are presented, their personalities and motivations. The subjective views of one person, who is also not around to advise the film production and illuminate us, also do not allow for objectivity. We've been warned. Meet Øystein Aarseth, a 19-year-old Norwegian with a comfortable life, dreams of greatness and an artistic vision to create a hard-to-swallow music that breaks all norms. So he takes up the stage name Euronymous and becomes the leader of a metal band called Mayhem, made up of himself, Jørn Stubberud Necrobutcher, and Mannheim, and later Hellhammer. The band's name comes from the song Mayhem with Mercy by Venom. Inspired by bands like Bathory, Merciful Fate, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, Motorhead and Black Sabbath, the very young and inexperienced musicians from Mayhem sought out their own artistic direction, and Euronymous credits himself for coming up with a particularly heavy, cold and dark style of guitar technique, tremolo-picking guitar style that will come to define Norwegian black metal. His philosophy, which he will refine over the years, consists of blurring the lines between artist, stage persona and music, turning antisocial and anti-Christian attitudes embodied in black metal into a way of life. In search of a singer, they receive a tape packaged along with the crucified mouse. This morbid gift comes from the singer of Swedish band Morbid, Per Yngve Olin, called Pelle and famously known by his stage name Dead. The gradual introduction of Dead in the film is powerful, from the macabre package to his fascination with cadavers, his nihilism, debilitating depression, and desire to die. In spite of their differences, Euronymous is shown to be fascinated with Dead and profoundly inspired by him. He sleeps in a coffin, carries animal carcasses, buries his clothes in order to smell putrid, and even cuts himself on stage. He is the embodiment of Euronymous' artistic creed. He is one with his stage persona, more true than Euronymous would ever be, for better or worse. So, the opportunist that he is, Euronymous starts to use him. He exploits Dead's weaknesses and encourages his self-destructive manifestations in order to enhance the image of the band and profit from the notoriety. The scene where Pele asks Øystein to shoot him and then laughs it off is symbolic both to Euronymous' attitude towards him, mingling fright, fascination, greed, concern and sympathy all together, and to Dead's suffering. The contrast of that darkness and pain that lies beneath his smile and angelic figure is the tragedy that has marked us all, beautifully depicted in the film. On the 8th of April 1991, 22-year-old Pele slashed his wrists and shot himself in the head, leaving behind a bizarre and heartbreaking note and a massive amount of blood discovered by Euronymous. Written while agonizing from self-inflicted wounds, the note gives insight into his final moments, stating as reason that, "I belong in the woods and have always done so. No one will understand the reason for this anyway. To give some semblance of an explanation, I'm not human. This is just a dream, and soon I will awake." And leaving the lyrics to life eternal. The discovery and the brutal loss of his friend will scar Øystein for life, as memories of Pele will haunt him ceaselessly. Although devastated, as shown in the film later on and as suggested by Necrobutcher, Euronymous copes with this trauma in the sickest and most callous of ways. He buys a cheap camera and takes photos of the body, later using them in what is likely the most infamous album cover in history, making necklaces with what he claims to be pieces of Pele's skull and launching sickening rumors of cannibalism to promote the band's music and image. His posturing and the obsession with the marketable image starts to create a vicious cycle, sending Euronymous spiraling into a series of questionable decisions, leading to the loss of his friend Necrobutcher, who leaves the band in revolt at Euronymous' treatment of Dead and never forgave Euronymous, declaring that
I had plans to kill him myself.
And also leading to his acquaintance with a young musician from Bergen called Varg Vikernes, a connection which will prove fatal to him. Varg Vikernes is portrayed as an impressionable teenager. His artistic direction and personality is still under development. 6 years younger than Euronymous, Varg travels to the opposite side of Norway to meet Mayhem and compliment their work, hoping to catch Euronymous' attention. And he does, but not in the way he wanted. The next time they meet, however, he has already built a persona, changed his name from Christian to Varg, meaning wolf, and recorded tape for Euronymous to release on his label. During a series of interactions, funny on the surface but loaded with subtext, we get to see the posturing, the masks they put on, the power play, the ensuing competition between the two. Varg proves to be a brilliantly talented musician with great artistic vision, with the potential to take Mayhem and Norwegian black metal a step further, and Euronymous, the eternal opportunist, recognizes that. From now on, we see their relationship unfold, constantly ranging between confusion, admiration, envy and rivalry as they embark on a battle of inflated egos, a cold war where they constantly try to challenge and one-up each other while secretly wishing to have what the other has. Varg wants leadership, the power of decision and influence that Euronymous has, and Euronymous wants the musical talent and mysterious allure of Varg. The film constantly compares and contrasts them. Euronymous talks about Satan and Varg about Norse gods. Varg is a vegetarian.
Like Hitler.
Yeah, exactly like Hitler.
And talks about gassing the people he deems unworthy, while Euronymous has a poster of Stalin on his wall because he wants to be on the side of the ideology that caused the greatest damage. But essentially they both want to rebel against social norms, edgy and scandalous, to champion Norwegian black metal and be credited for it. Euronymous appears as a manipulator and control freak, putting ideas in people's heads and taking credit for what they do. He's shown daring Dead to kill himself, provoking Varg to burn churches, and indulging Faust in his fantasy to kill someone while keeping himself away from shady things. But as the film progresses, the role that we see in the beginning of a young and fawning Varg and an elitist Euronymous are soon reversed, and Euronymous gradually starts to fear that he has unleashed an actual maniac. This attitude is depicted in the scene where a girl comes to the lair of the Black Circle, the basement of the store, and while Euronymous has a crush on her, Varg abruptly orders the girl to undress, taking the flirting in a different direction and showing his psychopathic tendencies at work. Similar to the case of Dead, Varg embodies traits that Euronymous only pretends to have, namely brutality, fearlessness, and unpredictability. So, to keep up his tough facade, Euronymous goes along with it. The function of the fictional character of Ann-Marit is to show a different side of Euronymous, to let us see beneath his corpse paint mask. So, in their scenes together as a couple, we will see his willingness to turn his life around and focus on music rather than criminal acts, his trauma related to death, suicide, and guilt for his own actions towards him. This also helps contrast him and Varg, whose point of view we don't really get to see. Remember, this entire narrative is Euronymous' version of the events, to fill a gap as he is not here to tell it himself. Meanwhile, things escalate into criminality when Varg burns down Fantoft Church, a beautiful 12th century building of sculpted wood. The notoriety makes him hailed as a hero and envy gnaws at Euronymous. He wants to capitalize on Varg's success and appoints him bass player of Mayhem. And Varg, as both a thank you gift and a challenge, invites him to burn a church with him, which inspires the black metal community to a series of crimes, including arsons and Faust's murder of a man in Lillehammer. Faust's arc isn't very developed in the film because he keeps to himself much more than the grandiose Varg and Euronymous, but after being shown always watching slasher films, Faust decides he wants to know what it feels like to kill someone and spontaneously chooses as a victim the gay man who follows him out of a pub in pursuit of sex. While Euronymous outwardly takes credit for all the crimes, while inside becoming paranoid and living in fear, Varg decides to go public by arranging an interview with Darkblood and making the Black Circle's creed known. But this attempt comes off as incoherent, exposing the Circle's lack of organization and immaturity of its members. Once again, Varg and Euronymous are being paralleled. While claiming to despise the rockstar attitude and that their purpose is to make people fear and hate them, they both long for fame and recognition. Varg has taken a trophy-like picture of the church he burned down for his album cover of Aske, echoing Euronymous' commercialization of dead suicide. During the interview, speaking in the name of the Black Circle, he indirectly takes credit for all of their deeds, including the murder perpetrated by Faust, just like Euronymous had done, accusing Euronymous for only caring about image while later accusing him of cowardice for failing to take advantage of the situation to promote the band. This is why the church burning scene with Varg and Euronymous is a beautifully constructed one, emblematic of their potential friendship that never truly materializes due to their egos, the final turning point in their relationship. We see why, in spite of their common goals, their friendship has failed so fatally. They are both opportunistic, callous, hypocritical, they take credit for other people's actions, they want fame and control about all else, and they aren't willing to share it. Vikernes still claims to this day that he and Euronymous were so different, but to an objective observer, they simply had too much of their negative traits in common to get along. The world wasn't big enough for the both of them, and this is what the subtext of their interactions in this film so excellently shows. Angry and threatened, Euronymous makes a comment about how he'll torture and kill Varg for exposing them to the public, which reaches Varg's ears. So on the fateful night between the 9th and 10th of August 1993, he makes his infamous trip from Bergen to Oslo and shows up at Euronymous' place at night, supposedly to personally hand over the signed contract that he requested. In a detailed and brutally realistic reconstruction, we see the murder that follows, Euronymous ending his story in fear and despair and 23 stab wounds and multiple cuts from broken glass. While Vikernes has claimed self-defense, the scene is congruent with police reports and Vikernes' own description of murder, with Øystein making no attempt on his attacker's life, instead trying to escape the building, and Vikernes pursues him relentlessly, angered at his, quote, cowardice, unquote, with the sole purpose of taking his life. One attribute of this movie is realism, achieved with its believable three-dimensional characters and intense scenes, especially the ones involving death. After watching the film, Necrobutcher, the only remaining founding member of Mayhem, declared himself shaken by the realism of the scenes.
They took a lot of effort to reproduce stuff which I thought was very surprising, because I thought, only this geeks would know this anyway, so why put so much energy into these small details that only a handful of people know about?
And witnessing the deaths of his former friends made him say,
for me, I just felt like it was a sad movie, and I was thinking, fuck, this is... It just came back.
The film tells us the story without nostalgia, without rose-tinted glasses. Fans of black metal tend to see these musicians as titan-like figures, their status as creators of an entire subgenre influencing every black metal act that followed. The raw, powerful, immersive and atmospheric music, all paired with the chilling story of murder, suicide and arson, converged to raise them to the status of mythical anti-heroes. But Lords of Chaos is here to show a different side, to deconstruct a myth, to demystify something that should not be romanticized. And the movie achieves this demythologization with comedy. We see it cleverly created in the transitions between scenes and in anticlimactic endings to build up moments.
One. Fuck.
We see it in the moments of awkwardness and childishness and cringeworthiness, and it is also shown in the contrast between the mysterious aura of those famous dimly lit black and white photographs of the band members, which we all know, versus the film versions, showing in lifelike clarity the poor quality of the paraphernalia. And we also see it in the characters' lack of insight, the contrast between how these edgy teenagers see themselves and how other people see them. This scene of Vikernes being interviewed for Dark Bladder embodies all of these elements of comedy, with a try-hard Varg and his clashing statements and that little smile he cannot hold back whenever he thinks he had said something shockingly brilliant.
666.
The scene culminates with the journalist's conclusion.
What a fucking idiot.
And it is representative of the film's attitude towards the entire so-called true Norwegian black metal scene and the antisocial teenagers composing it, seen from the distance of maturity and changing mentalities. But all fun and jokes stop when Pele's mental health issues are shown and the topic is treated respectfully and empathetically. And tragedy is the other way in which demythologization is achieved in the film. This is why the deaths are shown in full painstaking detail, long, brutal and anticlimactic, because this is the reality of death. It is easy to romanticize the tragedy of these young men now immortalized by death and by time in their youthful states, forever in their songs and videos, but the truth remains that their lives and careers were cut short, and this was the result of conscious choices and attitudes. While truth in a biopic is very important, it is also relative, and this is what the opening line of the movie, based on truth, lies, and what actually happened, highlights. While facts, what actually happened, are immutable, inner realities like motivations, opinions, and feelings influenced by fears, ambitions, and rumors are true for the person in question, and all of these determine their actions. And truth is also hindered by the fact that people lie. We will never know what Euronymous felt when he found Pele dead, and we will never know whether Vikernes truly believed Euronymous was going to kill him. And several things may be true at once. You can put on your headphones and get lost in the beauty of the music, dream of a world uncorrupted by the flaws and nonsensical norms and pressures of our reality, and still be able to laugh or cringe when this attitude is put into practice in ridiculous or extreme ways. And this is why I love the humor in Lords of Chaos and find it bold and transgressive as it befits extreme metal. Maybe these teenage musicians did get drunk and yell "Hail Satan" for fun to scare off normies. Honestly, who among us didn't? But this doesn't mean their music wasn't deep and groundbreaking or that black metal philosophy at its core doesn't make sense. These things aren't mutually exclusive. We can love the art and still be able to admit that in some ways the artist was an idiot, and this applies to so many artists in history, and it shouldn't make their art less loved. Separating the art from the artist. So this was my analysis. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts on my video on Lords of Chaos, on Mayhem and Black Metal in the comments section below. I cannot wait to read them. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for other analysis of metal lyrics and occasionally movies. See you next time.